So about a month ago, I started thinking about making a set of dominoes, or a series of sets, and wasn't really sure how it would be best to go about doing it. I started by using some boards and a needle tool and trying to cut them out and then hand stamp them, and I tried several different ways. It definitely helps to let your slab get stiffer if you're going to do it this way, but I just was not happy with the uniformity of what I was getting. So I thought the best move was to head to the office and get on the computer, design something that I can 3D print. And so over the last couple weeks I've done a variety of test models to figure out all the little details and how it should work best, and several prototypes, and worked out a final solution for a simple 3D printed domino making kit. So let me show you how that works. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to want to do is get some non-stick cooking spray or any sort of vegetable oil and give this slab a good coating. It's going to make the rest of the process work much better. And as well, I'm going to coat the cookie cutter and all of the stamps, and I'll show you how they work in a minute here. Okay, so I'm going to start on the edge here, and I'm going to really work as close to the edge as I can so I can kind of tear these away and work across the slab. I'm going to pick a spot that looks good. Just going to push that in. So let's start with the sixes. We'll make a set of sixes, starting with 6 and the 1. It is a snug fit, but I want to make sure it's all the way up against that back wall, and then we just nicely push it down, and there we go. So this will be 6 and 1. Firmly, it stops easily, and then I'm going to take this tool, which has a shoulder that guarantees I always go the same depth, and we're just going to sneak it in here and make our line. And there's our domino. So one tricky bit is getting this out. Now you can just work it carefully with your fingers, but I prefer to use this clear piece of acrylic that fits nice and tightly. And the nice thing is, I really don't want to put a bend into the soft clay. It'll have a memory, and that might give it more of a propensity to potato chip when it's drying. And because of the oil, this just slides off. And there's our first domino. I'm going to go through, and we'll see about making a whole set. Well, we're getting a little rain, so hopefully the noise on the metal roof isn't going to be too distracting, but I wanted to get on these dominoes. Next step is to start rounding these over. So let me show you what I'm going to do. So I went out of my way to not fiddle with these while they were still wet. I didn't want to impart any memory into them, and I didn't want to be too aggressive in knocking off the corners. I feel like it's easier to do now that they've been drying for a few days. So first thing I'm going to do is take a look at anything like this that I can knock off those little sharp edges. I'm just going to go around and I'm going to take my finger to them and knock them all off. Sometimes they'll be a little bit bigger, and I might want to take a rib and just kind of knock that off, because we're going to use a sponge. But if you leave those chunks, it's just going to give you more work with the sponge. So that's the next step. Okay, now that I have all the corners, all the sharp bits knocked off, I'm going to very methodically wipe the edges of each one a certain number of times. Now the last that I did, 2 to 3 strokes on each edge seemed to do a good job. So that's what I'm going to do here. Now the corner is more concentrated, so I wanted to check and see, do I really need to do 2 strokes on it. I really don't want to rub on the face. I don't want to obscure or wear down anything on the face. And if I don't see anything funky on the back, there's just no real reason to rub that. I'm going to probably go ahead and do 3 wipes. I want them rounded because I think they'll feel better in the hand. I think that having a lack of sharp edges is going to make them less likely to chip. You know, when you're knocking them around in a box, you're playing with them, whatever you're doing. So 3 wipes on every edge, and we'll get all these done. Well, all 3 sets are cleaned up now and ready for their bisque fire. So I'll throw them in the kiln and I'll be right back to you. Well, the dominoes made it through the bisque firing, no problem. These are the full-size swirly clay, and then we have the full-size white and the 80% size swirly clay. So, I wanted to show you how I'm going to do the dots. Let me show you what the plan is. So I have some black velvet underglaze, and I'm using a toothpick to, as you can see, I got a little kind of shot glass out because I didn't want to dip down too much. I was getting it on my hands, but I've used a test one and it works really good. So let me show you how this works. I was hoping that I'd be able to get a drip on the end, and you know what? It just doesn't drip. But what it does do, I don't want it to go crazy, is it uses capillary action once you touch it down. So watch this. Let me try again. Let me bring you in close and maybe you can see what I'm seeing a little bit better. See, I'm slightly moving it around, trying to get it to fill the dot. Well, that didn't take too long. I definitely got better with the technique the more I did. And there were a couple where I kind of tried to come back and sponge it off, and I kind of wish I hadn't. There's a little bit of streaking from the black, but no, just take your time and it's pretty straightforward. So I just have 2 more sets to do. And I took the toothpick and I really was careful to really only put it on the line. It still has a tiny bit of black smudge around it, but that's encouraging and I think that will look sharp. So don't think I'm going to do it on both sets. So I think the larger set here I'm going to leave without a line. But this smaller set, we're going to go ahead and try to put a line on each tile and carefully wipe it off. So I have a clean sponge. I'm going to try to clean this stick, this little toothpick here, every time I use it so that it doesn't get excessively fat. I really want to minimize the amount of that's wider than I want. So I'm going to try to use the corner of the sponge and just wipe off that bit. Let's see how that goes. Well, I think that looks pretty good. I don't see much in the way of any smudging. So now I just have 35 more to do. Well, I got the lines put on all of them. A minor smudging, but I think overall the effect is really good. Okay, so I have some Celadon loaded up in the spray gun, and I have a plastic bat. I just wanted to point out, I've found that it helps to put a piece of paper towel down because it kind of wicks up the glaze and keeps it from going underneath and puddling. Really minimizing the amount of sponging on the backside I'm going to have to do. So okay, now for the last set. I'm going to put a clear on these, not the Celadon from like the previous ones. But I'm going to, before I put any color in them, I'm going to shoot them white first, and then we're going to figure out how to add some color after the fact. So here's the plan. What I want to do is use this copper. I have some thin strands that I'm going to cut into lengths and kind of put in the crack there. And then I have this thicker piece which I've been cutting up, and hopefully you can see I have not been consistent. Some bits are really tiny and some bits are longer, so I'm not sure if that's going to be a problem. I'm just going to keep cutting extras and avoiding the extremely small, extremely big ones. But because we have the white glaze on here, or the clear, I hope that we're going to have a little halo of green and kind of a black dot. But that halo is going to be different if the copper bits are too different in size. So I have some more copper pieces to cut, and I'll come back to you when we start putting them in the actual dominoes. Copper wires are very soft, and so it's easy to bend them when you pick them up. I did not expect that, actually. Okay, so you can do that 36 more times. I've gone ahead and cut some more of these, and then I went through and I pulled out the ones that looked really tiny and the ones that looked like they were just a little bit too big. There's definitely still inconsistencies, but you can see that they do have a little bit of a kind of a length to them, you know, they're kind of pill shaped. And I'm gonna try to orient the little bars all in the same direction. I'm just gonna have them point up and down, and I'm hoping that that is gonna give me a more consistent dot. Pro tip, might not be a good idea to drink a bunch of coffee before you do this, because man, you quickly realize how much you shake. This is really finicky. So this is what they look like. I really thought I was going to have a little bit more control on how they lean and whatnot, but I think this is going to be interesting. Okay, I just need to do the same to all of these, and we're ready to fire. Well, that took longer than I thought it was going to, I'll be honest. But they're all done. Looks like the rain stopped for a minute, which means I can go throw these in the kiln, and tomorrow we'll get to see how they all turn out. Well, here they are in the kiln. I think they turned out really good. Both sets of the stripy clay show some of the white, kind of the Oreo cookie kind of looking. But even the non-glazed side turned out really pretty. Yeah, non-glazed side. So, yeah, they turned out really good. So, I think I'm going to keep them in this orientation, and I'm going to make a pair of boxes for them so they can have a place to live. But I want to show you the ones that I put the copper in. Did not turn out as expected. I was really excited about these. Now, I'm not sure you're going to be able to see what I'm not happy with. It's very subtle, but take a close look and see if you can figure out what I wasn't happy with. What happened right here? Why isn't there a dot right there? What a mess. It's a real bummer too, because there are certain that look great, like these two. Maybe that's it. Maybe this one. But of course, had I maybe that one. Let's see if I can bring you in here and show you. It kind of has a cool crystalline metal, kind of a meteoric look. It's very cool with a green halo. I think it could have looked really good. What a bummer. So I'm not even sure I would try that again, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with these. They'll probably just go straight in the garbage. But yeah, no bueno. So I wanted to show you what comes in the kit. It's the final design, and I'm going to ship this with the handles disconnected. It just makes it way easier to ship, and it saves enough on shipping that it's actually worth it for me to include a little tube of super glue, just because it makes it a tighter package, and there's nothing to break. So you have the 6 stamps in their handles. You have the line making tool that registers on the edge of each stamp. You have an acrylic pusher. and then the domino itself. Now, this size right here is what I'm calling 100%. It'll give you just under a 1" by 2" domino, and that's a pretty traditional size. But I am going to be offering an 80% size. I actually like this size. If I was sitting at home, I'd probably be using this on the table, but if I was packing for a weekend somewhere and I wanted to take a set of dominoes, I'd probably opt for just the small form factor on this. So that is an 80% size, and then this is 100%. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed.